points off the bench. LeBron finished with 28 points and 12 assists. The Lakers are still 3 games behind Dallas for the 8th and final playoff spot in the Western Conference. The Lakers are back in action Wednesday night against the Clippers, who also need to regroup. Paul George did not play yesterday. He's got a sore left knee. Norman Powell started in George's absence. He led the Clippers with 21. Utah's women's basketball team snapped USC's 7-game winning streak. Utah won by 6 at Galen Center. The Trojans dropped to 11-5 in the Pac-12. USC freshman Juju Watkins had a game-high 30 points. The 12th time this season, the Compton native has had 30 or more. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough. 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 If we care enough.
Yeah, it's for the people. This is street radio for unsung hero. Riding in the Rego, trying to stay legal. My daughter found Nemo, I found a new primo. Yeah, you know how we do it for the people and the struggle of the brothers and the folks, the lovers of the dope. Experiments to discover hope, scuffle for notes. The rougher I wrote, times was harder. Went from rock the starter to the voice of a martyr. Why white folk focus on dogs and yoga? My people on the low end trying to ball and get over. Lyrics are like liquor for the fallen soldier. From the bounce to the ounce, it's all our culture. Every day we hustling, trying to get them customers. Law, we ain't trusting them. Thick bras, we lusting them. Sick and tired of punching it. I look on the bus at them.
I deeply enjoyed that dialogue with Amy Goodman, now celebrating 28 years as host of Democracy Now! And just thrilled that she took an hour of her time to sit for yet another conversation in our respective careers with each other about the working witness that we are trying to engage. And it's good to be in solidarity with people who are trying to do what you're doing. I had a friend of mine, an old man, told me many years ago, Tavis, if you're trying to go somewhere, get with somebody who's going somewhere. It makes the journey a lot less difficult. And again, you can't say enough about camaraderie when you're trying to do what Amy and I are both respectively and together, individually and collectively, trying to elevate some progressive voices in the media. So I celebrate Amy Goodman and thank her once again for that conversation. In this hour, another conversation that I've been looking forward to. It's with Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, UCLA sociology professor, who's going to take us right inside of his new book. It's called Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. As I said at the top of our program an hour or so ago, there are those who find that oxymoronic, that you can engage in any kind of reparations, much less radical reparations, and at the same time heal the soul of a nation and not further divide that nation. So there's a lot to unpack here, just starting with the title of the book, Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. I want to start by asking you to just read, if you will, for the audience, the annotation on the back cover of the book. Just read what's on the back cover.
Freedom is both large and small. Large freedoms lost, like language, family, autonomy, and land, are undoubtedly important. But so too are the small freedoms lost, like the ability to smile. As the breeze swirled around me, a new awareness unlocked. I realized that any idea of repair and restoration from slavery must recognize all the freedoms lost, especially the small ones, because as the wisdom of the elders holds, little things add up to big things.
Unpack that for me. Tell me why that passage of all the passages in this text was chosen to be on the back cover.
Yeah, first I got to say, in this edition of Mama, I Made It, shout out to the King, Tavis, having your boy on here.
Mama, I Made It.
Oh,
That's
my
funny.
goodness. You've been in my household my whole life, and I just appreciate you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
To your point about the back, part of what started for me with this reparations journey is a 15-year journey as a scholar, researcher who kind of stumbled into the topic largely defined. And as I started to think about writing a book about it, I had to come to grips with what kind of language was I going to use to express something so globally important. And so it became about imagination and realizing that along the way, one of the first things that enslaved people experienced was an iron bit that was placed in their mouth, which meant that they did not have the ability to smile. And for those who don't know, your smile is the anatomical biological anchor for your thymus gland system, which promotes and endorses a healthy immune system. So when we think about reparations, I think oftentimes people want to summarize it as about money or a check only. But I would ask those people, how much is a smile? What is the ongoing APR percentage on loaning your smile to someone? Can you monetize a smile? And given that it has such biological importance to your own immunity and your own ability to heal yourself, whenever we're talking about reparations, we're talking about the little things like a smile that add up to all of the big things like the prison industrial complex and all of these other matters, the wealth gap, the academic achievement gap. There's so many different gaps that we talk about, but it's really about getting to the fundamentals of what is lost along the way. And that led me to write a very different book and also lean into the idea of healing. And last, I'll say there's a book called A Course in Miracles that I discovered in early in this book. It has a passage that I can summarize that says healing is reparations. Now, the odds of those things coming together are not coincidence. And so I just thought, why not just take the lesson and put it in the back of the title? Because the original title was always Radical Reparations. And then, as you know, in the book business, it's like, what's that back title doing,
right.
Marcus?
That's right.
And I said, what is it doing? How would I define that? And healing is a major component.
It's gotten deep, but we ain't even 5 minutes in yet. I can see now. I got to strap myself in for this conversation. I have some friends who know Dr. Hunter. They said around UCLA they just call him Dr. Black. That's what they call him, Dr. Black, and I can see why. It's gonna be rich. It's gonna be rich this hour. Let me do this before I go forward. For those who don't have never heard what you laid out a moment ago or don't understand what the purpose of the bit in the mouth was for, just very quickly unpack why they would put a bit in the mouths of these Africans.
To take away your voice, take away your ability to communicate, because we also know in modern day research, shout out to the sociologist James Jones at Rutgers Newark, about the nod, how we nod at each other when we're in social spaces. And the nod is not just your eyes, it's your mouth. It's a big part of it. And so when you rob people of one of your first pieces of autonomy, your mouth, then you're taking away a fundamental freedom that just allows the other ones to go. So it takes away your ability to communicate with one another, your ability to express yourself, your ability to be seen and understood, to be identified. We think about people wearing masks, how we don't know who it is underneath the mask. And so the iron bit is a kind of mask of sorts that is forced into you. And we're not even thinking about what iron does to the mouth the entire time. And shout out to all of the dentists who will tell you that dental health is tied to heart health. So there's all these connections as to why, because you disempower the person, you take away their ability to be strong, to be defiant or resilient, because you literally have iron rusting in your mouth, pouring into your heart, and you can't communicate with those next to you.
Yeah, it's going to be rich. It's going to be rich for the hour. Dr. Black is in the house, better known as Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter. His book is called Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. As he was talking, I thought about, speaking of great books, thought about Nathan McCall's book back in the day, Makes Me Want to Holler.
Yes.
And when you hear stories like what Dr. Hunter just shared with us about how they put bits in the mouths of our ancestors for the purposes that he just described so eloquently, it just makes you want to holler.
That's right.
Just getting started with Marcus Anthony Hunter on Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Politics has become so messy lately, it's hard to find a reason to be hopeful. Hi, my name is Shakira. I'd like to tell you why Adam Schiff gives me hope. My parents raised me to take my right to vote seriously, so I try to stay on top of what's going on. I saw Adam Schiff lead the impeachment and insurrection hearings. He seemed like someone I could believe in. Then I actually met him at the MLK parade in South Central LA this year. Adam listened. He cared. I got to see who he is. He understands the struggle we have with the cost of living, all the parents working extra shifts and taking second jobs to get by. He gets a threat to our democracy and our freedoms. Adam Schiff knows how tough things really are for a lot of us, and I believe he's going to do something about it. It gives me hope, but hope isn't enough. We need to vote for Adam Schiff for Senate.
I'm Adam Schiff, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Schiff for Senate.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of This Light of Ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This Light of Ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This Light of Ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Made fresh daily in Lamert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, who is the author of a powerful and provocative new text. It's called Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. If you just tuned in, you've already missed 15 minutes of fire already. So this is one of those conversations I'm going to tell you. Check out the podcast. You know how this works. Later today, this conversation will be posted as a podcast. So if you missed the first 15 minutes alone, it's worth going to hear the podcast. And I'm just getting started for the next 45. So it's going to be a great hour with Marcus Anthony Hunter, again, talking about his new book, Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. Let me. I'm warning you. I'm coming at you sideways here for a second, but I know you can handle it.
Yeah.
When we talk about, because your approach to this subject matter, as you already laid out quite nicely, is a different approach. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because the approach is uniquely different than the conversations that we typically have when we talk about reparations. So let me just ask you, give me your broad canvas on which to paint. To your mind, when we talk about reparations, and I mean we as the collective, the demos in this country, when we talk about reparations, what's wrong with the frame that we are in? Does that make sense as a question? What's wrong with the reparations frame that we are in, where we have the dialogue that we do have to the extent that we have it?
Yeah, one of the creative challenges that's available to us is to think about having a conversation and approach towards reparations that is completely holistic, because we also know in America we're probably getting one chance at this conversation for real. So if we're going to have it, we want to make sure that everything is owed as discussed, and not everything can be quantified, like I said with the smile, into just a check. So in the book I talk about the metaphor of America as a beautiful mansion on a beautiful block, except when you walk inside, there are piles and piles and piles of dirty laundry, trauma and harm. And most people just, after a while, when you're in a place that smells really badly, you start noticing it after a while, and they kind of just live in it. Except those piles are the 7 forms: political reparations, intellectual reparations, legal reparations, economic reparations, spiritual, spatial, and social reparations. So that when we're thinking about this conversation, how are we reclaiming the cosmologies of African peoples lost, destroyed, or distorted because of enslavement? That isn't something you can quantify. Why is ISIS, the first ever known black goddess, now referred to as a terrorist organization? That tells you a lot about the spatial repair that's necessary. Why are we not in a place where we're understanding all of the religious practices that are inherent to African people that we've incorporated without knowing exactly? We're owed that. And for example, I say money is multifaceted. So even when we're talking about a check, we know that dollars are only one form of money. There's also time is money. History is money. Memory is money. Healing is money. Repair is money. Power is money. So how do we get all of those things? And I think that's about us tapping into our imagination. If we can imagine it, we can manifest it. And what we can manifest is building up a world that is more beautiful and inclusive than the one in which we reside right now.
Because we have the hour, which is why I do this. I love having time to just drill down, right? Let me back up for a second, have you back up. For those who may have just heard something for the first time, they've never heard before. I know there are those, in fact, who did just hear it for the first time. You delineated 7 forms of reparations. So let's take it. We got time. Just take me through all 7, one at a time, and just top line for me how you would define the conversation around those 7 different forms of reparations. I'm going to sit back and chill. Take the mic.
Hey, political reparations. When slavery was ended, there was the Freedmen's Bureau. It was torn apart in Reconstruction, but the original goal of the Freedmen's Bureau was to politically represent newly freed black people. That never happened. And so we think about political repair. Then if that would have happened, then we would probably be in a multi-party system, 3 parties at least, because you would have a party that is designated around these interests, around fully enfranchising people who were considered property, 3/5 a person. You need a political party that's about that. You need a political system that is always advocating for that, independent of what else is going on in the country. And that we have not had. So as a result, we're over-reliant on a 2-party system that originally conspired to create slavery and let it go on. One turned a blind eye, one fought against it, and then they barely agreed about it in order to recreate the United States. Political reparations. Intellectual reparations is about intellectual property, recognizing black people's creations, like jazz, for example, and not just simply in Black Music Month, shout out to the month of June, but all the time. And also we know the word, when we say credit, also equals money. So also protecting and paying people for their contributions that they've intellectually provided, often free of charge or without being properly accredited. Legal reparations, policies, laws, and all sorts of things like that. I've worked with Congresswoman Barbara Lee by her invitation for the last 5 years on her leadership, not only around reparations alongside Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, Representative Cori Bush, Representative Jamal Bowman, and a host of other folks around HR 40, but also she introduced the first ever Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation bill to create a commission so that what we would get in America is a balanced version of what 40 other countries like South Africa have done, which is to do truth often without reparations. How do we do both, in the words of Young Jeezy, at the same damn time? How do we do that? Legal reparations. Economic, that is debt relief. That is about subsidized education or free education. That is also about us thinking about how to cut the check. When we're thinking about money, that's in our economic repair. When we get to social repair, we're thinking about repairing the social contract. Every nation state is premised on a social contract. And what we know is that as Black people, as Native people in this country, the social contract both did not include us and also intentionally excluded us at our own expense. How do we how do we create balance and repair that social contract? That's about public awareness campaigns. That's about, for example, President Joe Biden and open letters that we put out asking him to use his bully pulpit to put the word reparations in the mainstream conversation, make people talk about it so that we can start being aware of what it really means. Because without that, we're in a constant, steady diet of misinformation and confusion that divides us further. And people don't actually know about St. Louis, Philadelphia, Boston, Massachusetts, New York, California, Asheville, New Orleans, all these places where reparations is actually being talked about or happening in some way and processed at the very least. Then you have your spatial reparations. That's about land repair, which I make a point about understanding that when you forcibly create migration, you actually harm the earth. And so when we're thinking about spatial repair, it's not only about land being adjudicated, given back to those for whom it belongs. Shout out to Bruce's Beach. And we know about the Santa Monica case going on right now, but also thinking about the damage done when all of these millions of people forcibly migrated to one place involuntarily and also remade the land from what it was usually intended for. The land needs repair, as do the people. And then last is the spiritual, which I was mentioning earlier, about representing and re-educating people on the wondrous, global, dynamic, vast amount of spiritual cosmologies that our ancestors understood and utilized in an effort to fulfill their own soul mission, in an effort to create their own community. That's all of the pair. That's all of the frames. And those are all of the forms. And together they form what I call radical reparations.
As you were talking, particularly when you got to the point about Joe Biden and you and others imploring him to just put that word into the discourse, that word reparations, put it into our conversation in this country. My mind went back to a trip that I took with Bill Clinton. When Clinton was president, he went to Africa on a multi-country tour, and I was on the plane with him for that trip. And when we got to Joburg in South Africa, we knew we were going to talk at some point during this trip. And at the time, this was years ago in my career, I was still on BET back then. So we get to Joburg, and I've been talking to the president on the plane, and Hillary, and back and forth about when we're going to sit down and do this conversation. So he finally says, "Okay, let's do it in Joburg." All right. So he's going to meet Mandela and all this pomp and circumstances. So we sit down at the hotel in Joburg for this conversation. And the question I wanted to ask him more than any other, and because I know how the president is, I didn't lead with it. I worked my way up to it. But the question I really wanted to ask him was, are you going to apologize for slavery while you are on African soil? If ever any president is going to do this, it ought to come from the first black president. And you take the joke, that was Toni Morrison, as you recall, who made that joke about Bill Clinton being the first black president before Obama shows up. That was the Toni Morrison joke. So I said, if anybody's going to do it, you ought to do it. And you're here. We're traveling to different countries on this continent. Why not apologize officially for slavery on African soil? And then Bill Clinton, my friend, but he did the Bill Clinton did the Bill Clinton. You remember the Ken Starr hearings? Yeah. That answer, it depends on what the definition of is. Only Bill Clinton could split hairs on the word is. It depends on the definition of what is. Okay, Mr. President. So he did the Bill Clinton and didn't give me the answer that I wanted to hope for. And again, I wasn't naive in asking it, but I wanted to ask the question anyway. And just the very asking of that question made all kinds of national news that I asked him that question in Africa on BET. It was a big story. So here you come now, all these years later, with Biden trying to push him. Now, here's the guy whose campaign is only saved by black people, black women in particular. As I said the other day in a speech, I'm tired of folks saying we saved his campaign. We didn't just save his campaign. When we saved his campaign, we saved the democracy. There we go. As we've done time and time again. So tell the whole story. We didn't just save the campaign. Absolutely. We saved the very democracy. But here you come now with the guy who put Juneteenth on the books when we didn't even ask for it. Most of us were surprised that Juneteenth became a holiday, but nobody really pressing for that. I ain't mad at him. So he's jumped out there to show his love for black people, his black bona fides, et cetera, et cetera. But he has not, to your point, as yet put that word into play, if I can put it that way. Yeah. I'm not naive in asking this. Why do you think he has not?
Yeah, first shout out to you on that important moment in history for Black people for doing that, and for African peoples everywhere. And just to note, the South Africa line is very connective to Radical Reparations, the book, because the third parable happens in South Africa. And Johannesburg is always significant to me because those who may not know, Johannesburg sits on a natural gold reef. So also, as you're saying that, the king in you knows that if you say this on this gold reef, it isn't just about it being Africa, it's on this space. How would that reverberate through the planetary system? You know, how would we all feel that vibration? And Bill Clinton missed his opportunity. You know, I think in this case, what we're trying to do is prevent President Biden from missing that opportunity. And I will say on the Juneteenth point, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee will tell you that Juneteenth and HR 40 were companion pieces. And so part of, I bring that up to say, isn't it like, you know, the way America tries to, as they say now in the culture, play in Black people's face, to take one piece of what you're putting forward and leave the other one on the side, and then not to make mention of it at all. And I think part of, and this is what the open letters that she endorsed alongside Representative Barbara Lee and Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman did, is to say executive action and executive order. Because as you know, the president will often say, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I will remind people, we are brushing up against 160 years since an executive order actually changed this country. It was called the Emancipation Proclamation. So Joe Biden can always do that. And we know that that was powerful. Okay. So we're always going to press you to at least do what they did before. And even in your Bill Clinton story, isn't it ironic or not that it winds up being George Bush who apologizes for slavery? The Republicans wind up doing it. And I bring that up because I think right now, whoever is advising the president is making a miscalculation and not understanding that Donald J. Trump will say anything. I do not put it past him to say reparations. He's already said, I am the best president for Black people since Abraham Lincoln. So that means he's wild and outrageous already. He's calling himself things heretofore never heard before. And Joe Biden was elected on 72 plus million votes that was based on watch Miss Breonna Taylor not receive justice, Mr. George Floyd be murdered, okay? And then you tell her daughter, I'm going to get this bill passed for you. A grieving child, a grieving Black child. So I just want to hold the line as a Black person, as a Black man, and say it is unacceptable to tell our Black children while they are grieving that you are going to do something and you don't pull every lever in that White House to make it happen. So if the legislature is not working, say the name, say the word reparations. You could at least shout out California. Gavin Newsom did it, so that's within party. You can shout out Hochul over there in New York and say, I just heard that 2 of the largest states in the union have moved forward in reparations. I look forward to hearing what comes of that. That's not you executive ordering it, but it is you challenging our then news media to create a cycle around it. And I think that's the big break that we need for people to know so many places are doing this. And this is what Bill Clinton didn't understand then, is that Nelson Mandela was both about South Africa, but reflective of every place that the Zulu and Bantu people have been, which is all over Africa. So when you say things to those folks, it reverberates across the bloodline. So it's really important for, I think, President Biden to seize the opportunity and not play foolish and think that the alternative will not say something like I support reparations, if only to distract Black people in the voting booth.
Well, I'm sitting here noodling and marinating in real time. What would happen if Trump were to beat Joe Biden to doing that? And to your point, he ain't above that.
Exactly.
He is not above. Now, it'd be pandering in the worst way.
Right.
But he ain't above pandering.
Right.
In that way.
Shout out to the gold sneakers.
There you go. Exactly. So I take your point about the way that Trump panders, and it'd be devastating for the president to get beaten on that. When we come forward, you said something. You went right past it so quickly, but I heard it, and I want to tease this out. It's one thing to talk about radical reparations and healing the soul of a nation into the future, because we ain't got reparations yet, obviously. So we're talking about this is aspirational, and hopefully the aspirational will become the actual.
That's right.
So that's what we're talking about. But you used a phrase a moment ago about, the phrase was hold the line. And that's a different conversation that I want to interrogate when we come forward. What does it mean, not just to be aspirational about reparations into the future, but in this moment in late modernity for Black people, what does it mean politically, socially, economically, and culturally to hold the line. We're going there when we come forward, holding the line right now in real time with Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, author of the book Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. He's on Tavis Smiley, and I'm glad about it.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The U.S. Supreme Court will hear arguments today on whether states have the right to tell social media companies what they can do. GOP lawmakers in Florida and Texas argue that companies like X and Facebook have been quick to tamp down conservative viewpoints. The companies say that laws limiting how they operate violate their First Amendment right to free speech. A former cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks has been arrested for allegedly driving under the influence. Early Saturday morning, Washington State Patrol says former Seahawks cornerback, African-American Richard Sherman, was arrested for alleged DUI, and he was booked into the King County Correctional Facility. In 2021, Sherman was arrested for driving under the influence and endangering road construction workers. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Another rough day for both of LA's NBA teams. The Lakers lost by 10 at Phoenix. The Clippers lost by 16 at home to Sacramento. All 5 Lakers starters scored in double figures, but the Lakers got only 16 points off the bench. LeBron finished with 28 points and 12 assists. The Lakers are still 3 games behind Dallas for the 8th and final playoff spot in the Western Conference. The Lakers are back in action Wednesday night against the Clippers, who also need to regroup. Paul George did not play yesterday. He's got a sore left knee. Norman Powell started in George's absence. He led the Clippers with 21. Utah's women's basketball team snapped USC's 7-game winning streak. Utah won by 6 at Galen Center. The Trojans dropped to 11-5 in the Pac-12. USC freshman Juju Watkins had a game-high 30 points. The 12th time this season, the Compton native has had 30 or more. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've all felt the impact of rising food prices. For families in poverty, they're facing malnutrition and even death. You can feed a family for a month with your $50 donation to Compassion International. Just text the word radio to 97646.
What's up, LA? This is John McKinney, your next district attorney. Voting is underway, and public safety is the top issue on the ballot. As a deputy district attorney for over 25 years, I know Los Angeles, and I know how to keep this community safe. And as an African American who lives and works in this community, I know the unique challenges we face. My promise to you is to ensure accountability, protect victims' rights, and give the underserved a voice. I'm John McKinney, and I ask for your vote for LA County District Attorney.
It's time to represent your community in the 2024 presidential primary election. When you vote, you get to decide what is best for you, your neighborhood, and your family. Use your power. Make a plan to vote today. Visit plan.lavote.gov. That's plan.lavote.gov to get everything you need to vote in the March 5th presidential primary election.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, who is the author of a powerful new polemic. It's called Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. And this thing is getting deeper by the minute. So I'm just trying to hold on for dear life and keep up with him. So you made this point a moment ago that just kind of jumped out at me. And you and I were talking during the break here. Mm-hmm. Let me reprise this quickly as best I can. Marcus and I were talking in the break about the fact that black folk are the only folk who have to really fight in a triangle. And he called it the Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
But we're the only other person in this country who are always fighting at one tip of that triangle to hold the line on the stuff that we thought we'd already fought and won. Mm-hmm. In the other corner, you're fighting the fights in real time. Mm-hmm. And in the other corner of that triangle, you're fighting for your future. Mm-hmm. The aspirational notion of things like reparations, fighting for the future of black babies yet unborn.
That's right.
So we're always fighting past fights. We're fighting real-time fights, and we're fighting for our future. And I called it the triangle, and you called it again the Bermuda Triangle. Unpack for me, if you will, then, given what we just discussed about that triangle, what it means, what it looks like in real time for black people to hold the line. That was your phrase. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing? How are we doing when it comes to holding the line right now in America?
Yeah, holding the line is super important because the present is now. That's what we have. And so if you even think about what the word now means when you spell it backwards is one. So when people tell you the power of now, shout out to Eckhart Tolle, he's right, because now backwards is one. And if you can hold the line now, you will have one, because the present is all we have. And we have to really think about, why we're holding so many lines and why people are so tired is because black people are punch drunk. If you're holding the line in all of these different ways, the triangle is a pyramid scheme of progress, where you're told, okay, if you just do this, it's good. If it passes the Supreme Court, Brown v. Board, you're good. Then you can move on to this. If we get the FHA to give you loans, and you can move on, and we're never allowed to move on. And that feeling of not moving on, I think, is intentional because it makes so many people completely cynical. Like, why am I doing this anyway? I think that explains why so many black voters may not feel the need to vote, because you're punch drunk. You've not seen where you can vote on something and move forward to vote on the next thing. You find every voting cycle, you're voting on the thing you thought you voted about. And I think even for all of us who are punch drunk, it's important for us to remember that we're not doing that for the system. We don't vote for the system. We vote for ourselves. We're voting for our vision of what we're trying to do. And when you hold the line, I would just use like a sci-fi metaphor. Oftentimes when people are leaving one reality, we create a portal. Let's say like there's a portal to the next space. There's always this wall where you pass through. Holding the line is also about holding what we don't want passing through into the world we're trying to build. We don't want human hierarchy coming through the portal with us. We need to hold the line about that. We don't want a lack of inclusion following us into the portal. We got to hold the line around that.
You're preaching, man. You're preaching. Lord Jesus. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You on a roll, man. What is your, I want to phrase this the right way. What is your read in this moment, again, following you, of black skepticism versus black cynicism. As you well know, they're not the same thing. And one of my great fears and frets is that we have moved from being skeptical to being cynical. And I understand how that's happened on a variety of fronts, politically, economically, socially, and culturally. I get it. But what's your critique of black cynicism versus black skepticism?
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction. And I will borrow from the great, wonderful sociologist named Octavia Butler, for whom this book is in memory of, her parable. All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. Whenever I'm in the reparations space, I like to bring that up because you got to touch it to change it. If you're cynical, you're probably not touching it. You don't know if it's worth touching. So it doesn't change and you don't change. When we think about reparations, I offer a friendly revision of that parable to say, all that you repair, you heal. All that you heal heals you. The only lasting truth is love. God is love. You don't have to be cynical about love. It is never wrong to participate from a positive space in any kind of process. So if you have something positive to contribute, don't allow the system to make you unbelieve that you have something positive to contribute. And that's the thing, is that, there's an African proverb that says togetherness is where hope resides. When folks become cynical, they're not in the togetherness space. And then we start losing hope because there's not enough of us to do the work. In the organizing space that I've been in for the last 5 years around this stuff, part of what you see is that people get tired, because some people stop coming, some people fall off, and then you stop having hope that this is really going to happen. And I would just encourage people to remember that skepticism often still allows you to participate. Cynicism usually often means that you don't, and you can't change what you don't touch.
What is, in your mind, the antidote to the increasing levels of black hopelessness?
More Stevie Wonder. I mean, for me, I'm planning this.
I didn't see that coming, but I'll take that answer all day long. I'll take that all day long. What is the answer to black hopelessness? Play some more Stevie Wonder.
Absolutely.
Miles, you got that? Play some more Stevie Wonder.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I've been organizing alongside the Black Music Action Coalition, the National Black Justice Coalition, with mentorship from the National Action Network. Shout out to Ebony Riley and Reverend Al. Around the Equity March on June 15th in D.C. Everyone's invited because there's so many of us who agree with this, so many of us who understand this. And it immediately took me to the song on Fulfilling This, where he says, we are amazed but not amused by all the things you said you do, Joe Biden. Okay? He sang that already. So we don't need to be despaired because Stevie Wonderful got us covered already. And then let's not forget Maurice White. Keep your head to the sky. So we got the music. Shout out to Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis. I listen to Optimistic every single day. Yeah. So for me, that always beats back hopelessness. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hopelessness is already on combat if you got the black music playing. Yeah. And so for me, that's what we need, more black music, which is why at our march, Live Nation is putting together a production that will have live music, to help people understand that the togetherness that we're creating will generate hope across the spectrum, so that you have something to go back home with and tell people it's June, we got to make it through November. This is how we can be active to give people that energy, and I think Stevie Wonder is the antidote. Man,
I love Stevie, by the way. We all do. I'm almost speechless. Not quite. I'm never truly speechless. But in the minute or two that I have right now, say a word, because you went there. So again, I'm just following you. Say a word about the role that our artists, black artists, have played. How about I put this? As the gatekeepers of our truth. The gatekeepers of our truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah. Music ironically began when the Catholic Church needed to record chants, so we think about how the spreading of the gospel becomes then gospel music. Shout out to the Queen Aretha Franklin. And what we think about a lot is music has been one of the few places where we've been able to talk to each other. This is why Parliament Funkadelic is so important, because George Clinton understands what time it is. He's going into outer space, the mothership, make my funk a P-funk, because I know black people are listening. Yeah. And it's one of the few things that white people will pay you to do, to talk to black people. Yeah. So when you use that and you understand it for the opportunity that it is, you get a what's going on. Yeah. You get a wake up everybody. You get a self-destruction. I think one of the things that our culture needs right now, and I want to challenge Drake, Nicki Minaj, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Rihanna, all of them. Where is our generation's self-destruction? Where is it? Where is it, 21 Savage? Where is it? We need that because it's an expression of collectivity about we see each other and we know music is one of the few places they allow us to tell you we're alive, we're real, we're not bots. We are Black people living as well, striving and having difficulties, and we know you're out there as well. We need that. So music is essential. Music is deeply important, and it's always been a template, which is why our music artists who are Black have always been mistreated at the same time. This is why they don't want to identify their music in the genre that it is. I remember when Whitney Houston put out The Preacher's Wife, because it became a #1 album on the regular charts, they didn't nominate it for a Grammy Gospel. So all of this language about Beyonce experiencing the unfairness, I would take you back further. Yeah. You know, Aretha Franklin was only really ever allowed to win a Black music Grammy. She never was up for Album of the Year. So this is a pattern about blocking the people who we're listening to from getting the most universal message out as possible, which is why Bob Marley never received a Grammy while he was alive. Freddie Mercury never received a Grammy while he was alive, because the people who ran the Grammys know the power of music. And we start awarding you for speaking truth in your music to other people who are dispossessed. You're dangerous now.
There's a mouthful there. I was just reading an article, which I'll talk about when we come forward, about Beyonce and the way that she is not being received. For all the talk about her being #1 on the country charts, the way she's not being received in the country genre.
Right.
You can be #1 on the country charts if enough Negroes buy your country album.
Right.
But that's not what's happening inside the country music genre. She ain't being celebrated and embraced there.
Right.
Whole nother issue. I was warned about this Negro, and and he's delivering. Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter. His book is called Radical Reparations. He's on Tavis Smiley right now.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
Hey Californians, are you ready to make your home ownership dreams come true? The California Dream for All Shared Appreciation Loan Program might be for you. First-generation homebuyers can get down payment and closing cost assistance along with a first mortgage to help you unlock the door of your new home. Applications open in April, so talk to an approved lender to see if you're eligible. Find out more at calhfa.ca.gov/dream or call 877-922-5432. A message from the California Housing Finance Agency.
Sounds different. Huh. This is Tavis Smiley.
Everyone's feeling pretty. It's hotter than July.
I hate to step on Stevie, but my time is getting away from me. But I love Marcus Anthony Hunter's answer to my question. What is the black antidote? What is the antidote, rather, to black hopelessness? That was my question. What is the antidote to black hopelessness? And he shot back without any equivocation or hesitation whatsoever. More Stevie. Turn it up, Miles. Just more Stevie. More Stevie. When we come forward, our remaining moments with Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter. He said it was the antidote, so I'm just giving you the antidote. More Stevie on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful they saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
All right. Our guest in this hour has been, and I've enjoyed this immensely. I was just saying to him, he's got to come back. He's going to be on the list of regulars now that we've done this the first time. His name is Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter. His book is called Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. I've got 3.5 minutes left. I will yield it all to you, the gentleman from UCLA, the sociology professor. And I want to close where we began, and that is with this notion that some people find a bit oxymoronic, that you can talk about, you can engage, you can have the aspiration of radical reparations and at the same time heal the soul of this nation. How do you do those two things simultaneously?
Yeah, it's important that we always remember that the nation, any nation, is a reflection of the people. Even if the nation gets so narcissistic and proud of itself that it makes you think that it isn't a reflection. It's about us understanding that the work we do with each other, how we see ourselves. If we see ourselves as unworthy, shout out to Jada Pinkett, we see ourselves as unworthy, then we're not even thinking that we're deserving of anything. And I think it's important for people to also understand that when we're talking about reparations, we're also not talking about something deserved, we're talking about something earned. So for example, when you go to work and you receive your check, it says earnings. Now, it may not be as much as you made, shout out to the IRS, but it says earnings. It doesn't say deservings. So it's important that we understand that reparations is earned. And all of the things, oftentimes people will say, well, you all have a Serena Williams and you have like a Jay-Z. That's only possible in America. You have Venus Williams, you have Dominique Dawes. And it's like, no, that's only possible through God. Okay. That is about Black people's relationship with their internal divine and their ability to do things in spite of a government that authorized sanctions and constitutionalized their dehumanization, their defamation, and things of the like. That part of what we're saying is while we're still striving, we still are holding the governments accountable, local, state, regional, and federal, for what they authorize, sanction, and permitted. And how we do, in spite of that, is no reflection of what the nation is doing, but a reflection of ourselves. And to all of us out there who have been feeling like you're tired and you don't know if it's worth it, I want people to know that we all survived the unsurvivable. COVID-19 was unsurvivable for Black people. Enslavement, unsurvivable for Black people. So many of us are feeling without purpose. I don't know what my life is about, what I'm meant to do. But you just got chose. We all got chose to survive something unsurvivable. So that means that we have a mandate to love each other more and to work and build something more beautiful, more loving than that which we inherited. So do not feel confused. Do not feel unselected, because indeed you have been selected. And remember, if you need any resource, not only the Equity March and the congressional members I mentioned, but the book is called Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. I want to give a thanks to Team Tavis for having me out here.
Mic drop. Mic drop. He gets to go. I got another hour of this, but that was a mic drop moment. His name is Marcus Anthony Hunter, Dr. Marcus Anthony.
If you're nasty.
If you're there you go. They shouldn't give PhDs to Negroes like this. I know you are.
They usually don't.
You are their worst nightmare. And we gave this Negro a PhD. No, we didn't give it. You earned it. There you go. There you go. He earned it. Again, his name is Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter. He is a professor of sociology at UCLA. He is author of the new book, Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. I could not have enjoyed this hour more. And I look forward to having you back on this program.
I look forward to being back. Thank you.
My great honor. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The U.S. Supreme Court will hear arguments today on whether states have the right to tell social media companies what they can do. GOP lawmakers in Florida and Texas argue that companies like X and Facebook have been quick to tamp down conservative viewpoints. The companies say that laws limiting how they operate violate their First Amendment right to free speech. A former cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks has been arrested for allegedly driving under the influence. Early Saturday morning, Washington State Patrol says former Seahawks cornerback, African-American Richard Sherman, was arrested for alleged DUI, and he was booked into the King County Correctional Facility. In 2021, Sherman was arrested for driving under the influence and endangering road construction workers. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Is this the This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Another rough day for both of LA's NBA teams. The Lakers lost by 10, did not play yesterday. He's got a sore left knee. Norman Powell started in Georgia's absence. He led the Clippers